In my previous life, my wife suddenly had a heart attack and was rushed to the hospital by her colleague. By the time I arrived at the hospital, my wife had already passed away. I couldn't accept this blow and fainted. When I woke up again, my wife had already been cremated. There was no time to grieve before loan agencies came knocking to collect debts. I then found out my wife had owed over 10 million in loans, and I was the sole heir in her will. 10 years later, I was hunched over picking up trash on the street when I saw my supposedly dead wife driving a luxury car, laughing and chatting with her first love. She threw me $100 with a smile, thanking me for my efforts. My body had long been drained by exhaustion, and I died on the spot from anger. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my wife's heart attack happened. Brother-in-law, you must keep your grief in check and take care of yourself. We did everything we could to save her, but Lucy still. Natalie Brooks, my wife Lucy Evans's close friend and her attending physician, looked deeply regretful, speaking in some medical jargon I didn't understand. She reached out to help me sit down on the sofa. Brother-in-law, you better not watch anymore. I'm afraid you won't be able to bear it. I looked at the reflection of my still young self in the glass, my hands without scars from hard work, but took a few deep breaths, finally certain that I had been reincarnated. In my past life, I received news of Lucy's heart attack and rushed to the hospital, running 3 red lights along the way, but still arrived too late. Holding the death certificate, I was full of regret, banging my head against the wall repeatedly, hating myself for not forcing her to get a checkup. Maybe it was grief, or the head banging that caused me to faint at the hospital. When I woke up, Lucy had already been cremated, leaving me only a small urn. I hugged it and refused to eat or drink at home, but what awaited me were several lawyers with major loan companies coming to my door. It was then I learned I was the sole heir to Lucy's estate. I forced myself to sort through the finances, only to find Lucy's company was a shell, leaving me with over 10 million in debt. The house was quickly forcibly auctioned by the court, and I had nowhere to go. I wanted to seek help from Linda Foster, but she refused to see me. The days that followed were very hard. I rented a small carport, and almost daily debt collectors came knocking. To survive and repay debts, I worked 4 jobs daily, but after court enforcement, I barely had enough to eat. Even when sick, I had to endure it. One day, while scavenging trash, I saw Lucy, who had been dead for 10 years, driving and laughing with her first love, Jason Carter. I rushed over to get a better look. Lucy didn't hide her identity at all. She mocked me for looking 70 at 40 and threw me $100, thanking me for my 10 years of effort. I was furious and died on the spot. Lucy walked away as if she didn't see me. At that moment, I made a decision. Last time you faked your death, this time, I will make sure you really die. Natalie Brooks kept urging me to drink water. I came back to my senses, but didn't drink it. I remembered last time I drank that cup, I fainted. I was almost certain it was drugged to make me miss Lucy's cremation. I put down the cup, ignoring Natalie's protests, and walked to Lucy's bedside. Although the sheet was pulled back, Lucy's face was rosy and her breathing steady, something I had missed last time because I was too sad and foolish. I raised my hand and slapped Lucy's face hard. She didn't move a bit. It seemed she was anesthetized to avoid being discovered. That was better for my plan. Natalie screamed, thinking I had found out Lucy was faking her death. Brother-in-law, even if you're angry, you can't be so harsh. This is reversible. Thinking of last life's pain, my anger surged, and I relentlessly beat Lucy all over. Seeing Natalie almost break down, I looked at her like she was an idiot. Manny, do you think someone who just died would feel pain? Natalie swallowed nervously and regretted saying that. She awkwardly twisted her mouth. No, I just. She couldn't finish, and I was too tired to argue. So I took out my phone and made a call. Natalie was stunned by my sudden change. Brother-in-law, who are you calling? I didn't answer. Of course I was calling Linda Foster. Because Lucy was faking her death, although Linda knew she had never been to the hospital or the crematorium. If I didn't call her now, would she come to cause trouble later? Besides, I needed Linda or that man to come. If I cremated Lucy now, Linda would definitely report me and Natalie to the police for murder. I couldn't risk going to jail and wasting my chance at reincarnation. I had to prepare a perfect alibi and make Linda regret her decisions. I looked oddly at Natalie. Don't you think Mom should see Lucy one last time? Natalie smiled brightly. Yes, we should call Aunt Linda. Linda answered the phone impatiently. Why are you calling me? I cried. Mom, Lucy is gone. Please come to the hospital to see her one last time. Linda hesitated, thinking it was bad luck to talk like that, but said she'd come soon. She arrived slowly, still with her perm rollers in, probably at a beauty salon. Seeing Lucy intact on the bed, she sighed in relief. Maybe sensing my confusion, she smiled, then slapped me. You jinx. You killed my daughter, and you're not even crying. She signaled to Natalie and pointed at Lucy. Cover my daughter up. You want her to die in peace, don't you? Natalie finally relaxed and covered Lucy with a white cloth. Linda sat on the nearby sofa and yelled at me, occasionally kicking me in anger. You bastard, if you weren't so tough, how would my daughter die? I wasn't angry. Compared to last life, this pain was mild. The more real Linda acted, the better for me. I covered my face, crying hard. Mom, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I've already lost Lucy. Please don't be sad. Linda slapped me again. Get out now. I don't want to see you. I'm taking my daughter to the crematorium. I said okay, knelt down submissively and handed Linda the water Natalie brought me. Linda drank it all at once, thirsty and nervous, cursing all the while. Natalie tried to stop her, but was too late. Minutes after drinking, Linda fainted. Natalie, who had just wiped her sweat, was terrified. Natalie sighed in relief. If Aunt Linda suddenly fainted, something must be wrong. You should take her to the ER. I'll arrange Lucy's cremation myself. No, wait, I can't trouble you with this. You're the doctor and understand more than me. You take care of my mom. I'll handle the cremation. I contacted the crematorium to come immediately. Natalie tried to talk me out of it. The cremation isn't urgent. Wait until Aunt Linda wakes up. Lucy isn't going anywhere. I said firmly. Manny, Lucy is already dead. Dead people aren't more important than the living. You're as close to Lucy as sisters, but you don't seem sad today, and you keep saying strange things. What do you want? Natalie was frantic like ants on a hot pan, trying to wake Linda, but Linda was like a dead pig no matter how much they shook her. When the crematorium staff began pushing Lucy away, Natalie couldn't hold back. She grabbed my sleeve, her voice hoarse, brother-in-law, I think I just saw Lucy move. Let's try to resuscitate her. I held the death certificate in front of Natalie. Manny, think carefully before you speak. Have you considered the responsibilities if Lucy really came back to life? Your hospital would be liable. You yourself would be accountable. This is murder, wanton disregard for life. I don't know if the hospital can continue, but you'll definitely go to jail. So think again. Did you really see Lucy move? Natalie was at a loss for words. I sneered, shrugged off her hand, and followed the crematorium vehicle. Natalie gasped and started dialing on her phone. I looked at Lucy lying on the stretcher and couldn't help laughing. 10 years ago on the street, when I met Lucy, her face was about the same as now, almost no signs of aging. I threw myself in front of her car, wanting to reunite, wanting to see if it was really her, wanting to tell her how much I missed her all these years. Lucy squinted for a long time and barely recognized me. She smiled, it's you. Only 10 years, and you look older than my grandpa. My voice was hoarse, and bent over, I really didn't look like a 50-year-old. I stammered, You weren't dead? Lucy and Jason Carter sitting beside her laughed uproariously. I faked my death to get rid of you. Lucy hadn't even finished before I understood. If she said she wanted a divorce, I wouldn't refuse, but divorce would mean I'd get half her assets and she'd be labeled a cheating woman. Faking death was different. She could leave all debt to me, transfer all assets, and change her identity, openly and without fear be with Jason. I was speechless with anger. Lucy seemed eager to continue, laughing. Actually, I in the hospital, I could hear you talking. You're crying, I still haven't forgotten. I'm really curious how a man can cry like a goose. Goose, goose, goose. It's really funny. Ha 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 ha. Amid her mocking laughter, I clutched my chest and collapsed. Jason said, Honey, maybe she's trying to scam us. Let's get out of here. Lucy shouted bad luck and drove away, completely ignoring me. My last memory was watching the car leave, then falling into darkness. Still trapped in painful memories, I noticed Lucy's finger twitch. She seemed to know she was about to be cremated, the anesthesia wearing off, starting to wake up. I urged the driver, please hurry. My mother-in-law wants to grab my wife's body to bury her in the ground. But my wife loved beauty most. She wouldn't want to be eaten by worms underground. The driver responded and hit the gas, speeding up. I leaned on Lucy's chest, listening to her steady heartbeat, saying all the things I never got to say last life. I know you're not dead. I know you cheated on me long ago, and staged this to run away with Jason, leaving me to repay debts. But I don't hate you. I've decided to respect your choice. Since you want to die, I'll send you to be cremated quickly. I only know you can hear me now, but I'm not sure if you feel pain. I hope you do so you can experience cremation. After all, you might be the first person to be cremated alive. You may wonder why I'm doing this. How would I know all this? Well, it doesn't matter anymore because I've been through today once already. Last life, I believed you and lived miserably. Don't blame me. You owe me this. Lucy's fingers trembled slightly. She couldn't move, but tears fell. I wiped them away. Starting to cry already? You can cry after you're in the furnace. My phone kept ringing. Calls from Natalie and Linda, but I was just a pitiful man who lost his wife with no heart to answer. Thanks to the driver's reckless speed, what should have taken half an hour took only 20 minutes. But the crematorium was busy and Lucy would have to wait at least another hour. I was pacing anxiously, furrowing my brows as I finally found the person in charge. My wife suddenly passed away from a heart attack, and my mother-in-law fainted upon hearing the news and was now in the hospital receiving emergency treatment. I had to hurry back. I begged, please let me cremate her first. I don't want my mother-in-law to suffer more. The crematorium staff said, this is the first time I've encountered someone trying to jump the queue for cremation. He hesitated a bit. I understand you're in a hurry, but others have been waiting a long time. I can't just let you cut in line. Though he said this, he subtly stretched out his hand. I understood. He was asking for money. Knowing time was of the essence, I took out my phone and transferred 2,000 yuan immediately, pleading. Please help me out, brother. I'm an orphan, and my wife and mother-in-law have been so good to me. I really can't lose my mother-in-law too. With the money, Lucy Evans was successfully moved ahead in line. Within 10 minutes, she was pushed into the cremation furnace. Just as the staff was about to press the incineration button, I stopped him. I couldn't let him become a killer, and I also wanted to take revenge myself. After insisting strongly, the staff agreed to let me press the button. At that moment, voices cried out anxiously from the doorway, Linda Foster and Natalie Brooks. Stop! Stop! Don't cremate her. Linda Foster, probably still affected by medication or frightened, collapsed at the door. Stop! Get my daughter out. Natalie Brooks grabbed my hand as I reached for the button. Brother-in-law, wait. Andy still has something to say to Lucy. Panting, Linda said, get lost. I won't let you cremate my daughter. I'll do it myself. Get them out. Even at this critical moment, they still wanted to continue the fake death plan. I knelt on the ground, grief-stricken. Mom, Lucy is gone. Let her rest in peace. I'm her husband, I won't leave. Our argument drew a crowd. The staff exchanged looks. What kind of tragic drama is this? Crematoriums aren't places for your theatrics. He was about to press the button when Natalie and Linda lunged to block it, faces twisted with desperation. The staff jumped back, startled. The two women didn't stop, throwing themselves onto the button. Flames instantly engulfed Lucy Evans. Two screams rang out as everyone stared at Natalie and Linda. I stared intently at Lucy inside the furnace. Lucy's anesthesia must have worn off. I vaguely saw her mouth open, her hand reaching out. But the noise outside drowned it out. No one noticed. After a minute, everyone finally looked back at the furnace. The crematorium staff whispered curiously, pointing at the furnace. This is the first time I've seen a hand stretch that high, like she's alive. Yet out before it was just minor muscle twitches. Luckily it's daytime, or I'd swear she came back from the dead. I wiped away non-existent tears, forcing a pitiful smile. My wife loved her mother-in-law so much. Maybe she heard her voice and wanted to sit up to see her one last time. I wiped tears from my eyes, speaking to the furnace. Wife, rest well. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Mom. I'll do my best to reunite you both soon. Coincidentally, as I finished speaking, Lucy collapsed, this time truly dead. I finally breathed a sigh of relief, as if last life's suffering had vanished. Natalie Brooks, ignored Linda Foster, collapsed on the floor and stumbled forward. Seeing what was inside the furnace terrified her. She desperately pressed the incineration button. Why won't the fire go out? Put out the fire. The staff, seeing this for the first time, hurriedly pushed Natalie aside. We understand your grief, but the dead cannot come back. Your actions only disturb her rest. Besides, this is an automated crematorium. Once started, the fire must finish before it can be opened. Please don't be impulsive. Natalie's face turned ghostly pale. She dropped to the floor mumbling that it's over, it's all over. Then she looked at me. Brother-in-law, we called you. Why didn't you answer? I sighed. How could I think about answering? My mind was full of Lucy's death. Besides, that cremation after death is normal. Why try to stop it? Linda crawled to my feet, shouting, "You bastard! You cremated my daughter alive. Give me my daughter's life back." I sighed again, but didn't help her up. Instead, I pulled out the death certificate. Mom, I know you're upset, but Lucy's death had nothing to do with me. She died suddenly of a heart attack, not because of me. If you don't believe me, ask Natalie. She personally tried to save Lucy and issued this death certificate to me. Right, Natalie? I glanced at Natalie Brooks. Natalie had no answer. She said that she's not alive. Then why is there a death certificate? It says she's dead. Linda wouldn't believe either. But hearing me, Linda suddenly grabbed Natalie's neck. It's you. You killed my daughter. She was alive, but you insisted on issuing the death certificate. Now my daughter's been cremated. That's your fault. I feigned shock, covering my mouth. What? Mom, what are you saying? Lucy's not dead. I sharply looked toward the still-burning furnace. No wonder I thought I saw a finger move earlier. It wasn't a hallucination. Hearing this, Natalie tore at her hair, mustering courage to speak. It's true. Lucy wasn't dead, just anesthetized. If only you had waited a few more minutes, she would have woken up. I wasn't satisfied. What? You're saying Lucy was cremated alive while still conscious? Everyone present was horrified. The staff's faces paled. One muttered, "No wonder." Right after ignition, she suddenly reached out. "Oh my God, this is murder." Linda fainted again. I reacted quickly, slapping Natalie across the face. "Natalie, are you crazy? How can you joke about this? My wife is dead. Don't say nonsense." Natalie was stunned. "I'm not lying." I smirked. "Not lying? Then why was my wife anesthetized? Why did you issue a death certificate for her? If you're lying, at least make it believable." Natalie was speechless. The staff thought she was joking and went back to their work. With Lucy's cremation over, I angrily took her ashes and left the crematorium. Before leaving, I told Natalie, "You scared Mom into fainting. You're responsible for getting her to the hospital." I wasn't staying to watch Linda's meltdown. I had more important matters. I placed Lucy's ashes prominently in the living room. Then I quickly contacted a lawyer to begin handling Lucy's company inheritance and estate. Last life, I was too grief-stricken and missed my chance. The company was lost. This time, I had to act fast. If Linda woke up first, she'd seize everything. If I didn't act, rebirth would be meaningless. After finishing the procedures, I stared at the 10 million yuan debt in silence. Knowing Lucy, she wouldn't have given all that money to Jason Carter or Linda Foster. I checked and found no such funds under her name. She must have hidden it. Following her spending records, I found a rented garage. Sure enough, I discovered the cash there. I quickly contacted banks and loan companies and paid some interest, clearing the debts. After all this, I lay on the sofa, raised a glass of red wine, and smiled at Lucy's photo on the wall. Wife, thank you. Now I have money, a house, a company, and no debts. I'll live freely, even more so than last life. I drank myself into a drunken sleep on the sofa. The next day, I was awakened by knocking. I rubbed my hungover head and opened the door. Outside stood Natalie Brooks, Linda Foster, and an older man, probably the Jason Carter I knew from before. His face was full of sorrow. He held the hand of a 6 or 7-year-old boy who looked a lot like Lucy. No wonder Lucy never wanted kids after marriage. She'd already had a child with her first love. The three looked exhausted, with dark circles from sleepless nights. A few police officers followed behind. Linda entered the house, pointed at me, and said, "Officer, this man cremated my daughter alive. Arrest him. Cremate him too, and let him taste it." I had anticipated this scene, just not so soon. I sighed. "Mom, please don't joke like that." I showed the death certificate. "Officer, this is my wife's death certificate. My mom hasn't accepted Lucy's passing and might have some mental issues." The officer examined the certificate, nothing wrong here. I continued, "I've been married to my wife for 3 years. We loved each other deeply. I knew she died and didn't want her body to our OTSO. I cremated her immediately. Did I do something wrong?" Linda clutched her chest tightly. "Nonsense. My daughter hated you. If Jason hadn't been unable to divorce, Lucy wouldn't have married you out of spite. You did it on purpose, cutting in line to cremate her all for her inheritance and company. I confirmed this with the company yesterday. What do you have to say? I looked at her, eyes red and bloodshot. Mom, that you can scold me, but my love for Lucy was real. If it wasn't, how could she have made me her sole heir? Linda had no comeback. I continued. You say Lucy's still alive? Then how come such a big hospital couldn't tell if she was dead or alive? Natalie personally told me Lucy was brain dead, and her heart stopped. Who alive is like that? Linda gestured for Natalie to speak, but Natalie kept her head down. That made sense. If Natalie admitted the death certificate was fake, that the consequences would be huge. It was safer to keep quiet. The atmosphere froze. Jason tugged Linda's sleeve. She stopped talking. He sighed. Lucy really wasn't dead. I was Lucy's boyfriend. We broke up due to a misunderstanding, and she married you out of spite. I divorced this year, came with our child to find her. Lucy knew she still loved me and planned the fake death to leave you. But you cremated her outright. Jason stammered. But don't blame Lucy. She did it to avoid hurting you. She's a kind person. Lucy is gone now. We just want you to accept this child and give him what he deserves. I took a sip and mimicked Linda's tone. Nonsense. Then sadly to Linda. Mom, I know you and Lucy didn't get along. She left you nothing in her, so you brought this random kid to frame her and grab her inheritance, right? Linda nearly exploded. But for money, I steadied her. Nonsense. Lucy loved me, and this is her child. I know it clearly. I pulled out Lucy's will. Mom, but why lie? If you loved Lucy, why isn't your name anywhere on this will? Why is everything left to me? Linda was speechless. Jason hesitated, probably unable to admit Lucy gave me the will to take on the debts. I glanced at the child standing behind Jason Carter and sneered inwardly. I said, how come the perfect wife act you've been putting on for 3 years suddenly stopped? So it turns out your first love and son are back. But I wasn't sad at all. After all, I had already died once. With a calm expression, I said that if you say this child is Lucy's, then show me proof, like a legally recognized paternity test or a birth certificate. Jason and Linda faltered. There's no paternity test and no birth certificate because the child was born at home. But the child is definitely Lucy's. I waved my hand. Officer D, you see what's going on here? They know my wife has been cremated, yet they still deliberately brought a child here to claim the inheritance. And they're spreading rumors that I cremated my own wife. But what they say is full of contradictions. Linda anxiously said, I can do a DNA test with the child to prove I'm the grandmother. Doesn't that prove the child is Lucy's? The officer shook his head. That doesn't count. It only proves your relationship to the child, not to Lucy Evans. Even if it did, IT can't confirm that Lucy only had one child with your son-in-law. I stifled a laugh. Actually, one big reason I insisted on cremating Lucy so quickly was to prevent this very problem. Unexpectedly, IT worked perfectly. Linda and Jason exchanged a glance. Jason gritted his teeth. No matter whose child this is, Lucy really isn't dead. He cremated her. He's a murderer and can't inherit Lucy's estate. Jason wasn't wrong there. But the premise is that you'd have to prove I'm a murderer first. I suddenly looked at Natalie Brooks. Natalie, you say it. Is Lucy alive or dead? You're a doctor with a family. Think carefully before you speak. You may not remember, but I do. It was you and Mom who rushed forward and pressed the cremation button. If Lucy were truly alive, then you and Mom would be murderers. I twisted their act of blocking the cremation button into a claim that they deliberately pressed it. Linda couldn't even say nonsense. Natalie gritted her teeth and said without looking at Linda and Jason, she really is dead. I sighed in relief. But Jason raised his phone. I knew you'd lie. I brought evidence. Jason played a recording on his phone, a conversation between himself, Lucy, Natalie and Linda discussing the fake death plan. Lucy's voice came from the phone, as disgusting as last time. I'll take anesthesia, you knock my husband out, then tell him I've been cremated. After it's done, I'll give you $1 million. But the recording wasn't complete. It didn't include the part where they schemed to put the debts on me. Natalie crouched down, at a loss for words. I didn't know. Jason seemed relieved. I wasn't lying. You killed Lucy. You should go to prison. The inheritance belongs to this kid. I put on a shocked face and stayed silent for a while, acting very sad, not fake at all. Officer, I want to file a report. Those 3 deliberately faked my wife's death and hid it from me. I was so grief-stricken that I didn't even notice Lucy died. I pointed at Natalie and Linda. When we said goodbye to Lucy's body at the hospital, I called Mom and clearly said I wanted to cremate Lucy. But they deliberately hid the truth that Lucy wasn't dead. They wanted me to cremate her and then came here to snatch the inheritance. I asked Linda and Jason that I knew my wife died and followed normal procedures to cremate her. Is that wrong? Obviously not. They didn't expect me to speak so clearly. They thought I would collapse or be manipulated. But I had died once already. I was no longer the naive, foolish me from last life. The moment I woke I had planned every step I would take. My throat went hoarse from sorrow. Mom, you were there at the farewell. Why didn't you tell me the truth? If it was just a divorce, how could I refuse? It was you all. You deceived Lucy, made her believe your lies, and pushed her to fake her death. And then you cremated her, making me a criminal who sent his own wife to the crematorium. How cruel you are. Linda stammered. That's because Lucy said to make you believed, so we didn't dare tell the truth. I took out my phone. What about this? On my way to the crematorium, you called me. You knew I was going to cremate Lucy. I was too heartbroken to answer. Then why didn't you send a text? At the crematorium, Lucy wasn't cremated yet. Why didn't you tell me the truth? Instead, you started fighting and pressed the incineration button. Linda and Natalie were speechless. But I knew. They confidently believed they still had time. As long as they distracted me at the crematorium for a bit, the plan would succeed. After all, fortune favors the bold. The farce ended with no conclusion. Each side stuck to their own story. The police had no choice but to take us all to the station for temporary detention pending investigation. After a few days of investigation, they found I was truly a simple, innocent husband who had no idea about Lucy's affair. I never questioned Lucy's business trips or socializing. I never looked at her phone. Neighbors, friends, and colleagues confirmed we were a devoted couple who never even argued. And the police couldn't know I was reincarnated. Based on the evidence, how could such a husband suddenly kill his own wife? Meanwhile, Linda, Natalie, and Jason's stories were full of holes. They had countless chances to tell me Lucy wasn't dead, but waited until after I cremated her. Especially Natalie and Linda. They saw Lucy enter the furnace and still refused to tell the truth, even pressed the button themselves. Though they said it was unintentional, who would believe that? Moreover, the initial fake death scheme was already an outrageous deception. In the end, the investigation concluded I was an innocent, grieving husband. The other three were arrested on suspicion of murder. 6 months later, they were convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. But Linda didn't live that long. After learning of her sentence, she died of a heart attack. Natalie's husband immediately divorced her and left with their child. It's said Natalie deeply regretted it and tried to commit suicide multiple times in prison, but failed. Jason contacted me a few times, begging me to visit him in prison. I ignored him. Then he began writing letters, pleading for mercy and asking me to raise the child for Lucy's sake. I replied once, telling him the child had already been sent to a welfare institution. I'm no saint. I won't raise the child of the man who killed my wife. After that, I sold the house and used Lucy's inheritance to buy a bigger, better place. I kept Lucy's ashes with me always, believing heaven listens. I wanted her to watch from above how happy I was living.